is what has become of your country.
Indeed, like every other patriot, should be embarrassed. And I appreciate the way you have reviewed the situation. It's so apt. And it's indeed disturbing. And no patriot should be comfortable or happy at what's going on, especially considering the incremental efforts that have been put into curtailing the security situation that we now find ourselves. So it appears that all previous efforts have not paid off, despite initial gains, and it should be disturbing indeed. That's my concern. I know it's the concern of all, including your station.
All right, General. Looking at the security situation in Nigeria today, we have a lot of terrorist groups already operating in Nigeria. For instance, we have Boko Haram, we have ISWAP, we have Lakurawa, and just recently, I understand we have a new one, Mahmuda. General, how would you describe the current security situation in Nigeria from a military perspective?
Maybe by just a simple word, degenerating, unfortunately. It's just degenerating in a way that should be, like I mentioned earlier, disturbing. It's not because there are no efforts, it's just that maybe the efforts are not pointed at the right direction. And the concern should provoke everybody to start bringing solutions. I take particular notice of the solution being proffered by General Danjuma. And it's time the nation does not continue to ignore this old man's counsel. This is not the first time he's giving that advice, that with the degeneration, it's time we encourage Nigerians to defend themselves. But I would suggest that we moderate it, and that's the essence of a state, so that it's not just let loose like that. Let's try other effort dovetailing towards empowering, beginning with the subnationals to have better input into the security of their situation, environment.
All right, General. But as it is right now, what we have is that security is being controlled at the center. Since we do not have subnationals, like you just suggested, handling security in Nigeria, what we have currently is a federal government taking charge, taking care of security. As it is right now, in your own opinion, what are the major threats that Nigeria military is facing? For instance, look at the attacks going on. Look at the one that happened in Plateau State. Reports have it that these attacks, sometimes, General, these attacks take place not so far from military bases, with no response from them. So in your opinion, General, what are the major challenges? What are the threats that the Nigerian military is facing? How can we be having attacks and we have a military base somewhere close by, and indigents of the place are reporting that there was no response, and these attacks sometimes would last for hours without any interference from the military? They would come, they will attack, they will lose, they will destroy, kill, and all that, leave before we see military men moving in. In your own opinion, and I want you to be very objective, what are the major threats or what are the major challenges the Nigerian military is facing when it comes to tackling security in Nigeria?
Well, some of these conclusions have to be interrogated further. It will be very unfortunate if it happened the way it is mentioned, that the military watching attack and doing nothing. By the way, it's not just the military that's in this environment. Virtually all the security outfits are now involved in curtailing the situation. And many things still go by assumptions. We are not there, and we cannot know how, a trained outfit will watch attack going on without doing something. Maybe people don't understand what's going on there. However, I still believe that the need for perhaps small boots on the ground still remains there. Some will go beyond this idea of thinking that it's a matter of equipment. There's also the importance of the will. After all, for a while, and occasionally these situations are reversed impressively, then how come it is generating this badly? Those immediate observations, such as saying people are not responding, may just be, by the way, with more decisive and well-expressed political will, I think the military and security agencies will respond better. And I want to be careful in adding the dimension of equipment. The demand behind the equipment is more important. If the man has all the equipment and is not disposed to acting, it all becomes meaningless. And I think that a combination of political will and direction will motivate the military and security agencies to respond better. I summarize all you've said so far, bordering mainly on response. I think the response can be, heightened.
All right. General, you talked, you hinged on the advice of retired General T.Y. Danjuma, and he has said it a few days ago as well, and he has always been on that trajectory that it's high time Nigerians armed themselves, for self-defense and all of those things. But General, are you not worried that that would be signaling, and looking towards that direction to say, it's like the Nigerian military, the security formation in Nigeria, has abdicated its duty, and we are calling for self-help?
Well, that's a very unfortunate angle to the whole matter, and although it's looking plausible that could be happening, I mentioned earlier that my position on General Danjuma's observation is that much as it should be substantially adopted, it has to be moderated. That's right. There has to be some state input to make it actually workable, and the moderation will involve better empowerment and mobilization of the subnationals to make input. We cannot let it loose at this moment. I don't think that the situation has come that badly to allow every character, including those with perhaps mental inadequacies, to hold arms. It will lead to more chaos. But I understand the position of the general is the desperation that we find ourselves that makes us bring up kinds of solutions. I think it should be moderated. And the moderation will be involved empowering the subnationals. And that also involves the political will I mentioned of the federal government has to show better disposition into, mobilizing every input that can reverse this unfortunate dimension in our security.
All right, General. Like you mentioned in your opening statements, you made it clear that it's not only the Nigerian army, not only the military that are there on ground. My question is, how is the Nigerian military, from your own experience, how is the Nigerian military coordinating, strategies with other bodies like the police, the DSS, the civil defense? Is there a good coordination between all the, military agencies in Nigeria? That's number one. And number two, I'm going to ask you this question directly, and I want you to answer based on your experience. Is it possible? Because some opinion in some quarters is that the whole thing is being politicized, that's playing with the lives of innocent citizens of Nigeria. So I'm asking you, is it possible for an attack to be going on, in a place not so far from a military base, and the military base would receive calls for help? Is it possible for them not to do anything absolutely until they receive a go-ahead order from the politicians? Those are my two questions.
Thank you. I will try to approach these questions as much as I can. First of all, about the coordination and cooperation with other agencies, I think it's improving gradually in the sense that compared to what it was initially, where everybody stepped back and left the military into it, even the security agencies were, some of them were literally not willing to support the operations of the military, believing that they should go ahead and solve it all alone. I think it is improving gradually, and it's better than it used to be. There's some cooperation going on among them. Now to the issue of responsiveness on the part of the agencies. Well, all these things remain, to the best of my understanding, a matter of opinion. Quite often, with experience, I found that some of this alarm may not be correct. It's indeed improper, almost impossible for a well-trained organization like the military and their counterparts in the other security agencies to shy away. Maybe the people observing don't understand the circumstances. There has to be, even when responding, you have to be methodical. If you look at the issue of at Okwama and other places, it will give you an idea of how responsiveness also has many dimensions to it. You can fall into an ambush if you just respond the way you are prompted. So being responsible in a mission area also involves a lot of care, a lot of planning, which includes the route that you that you need to take to go and respond to a particular situation. And observers who don't understand those limitations, we take it that we just don't want to be responsive. I'm only mentioning that as part of the likely situations that give rise to this opinion.
Also, all right, yeah. General. So are you saying the military overwhelmed? Would you say the military is overwhelmed? Talking about the manpower and the resources available to the military to fight insurgents in Nigeria. In your opinion, do you think the military is overwhelmed?
No, I won't agree that they're overwhelmed in the sense that is being projected. Although they are really, really stretched. Yeah, let me use that word. But not overwhelmed. I think incrementally, the military has been putting in their best. They keep training they keep training and improving on deployment approaches to this issue. And the only thing is, and I'll be back to the issue of, moderating the position of a revert general with the government input to, I will make a radical suggestion on this, that beginning from the subnationals, the federal government should empower the states with automatic weapons to complement the activities of the security agencies. There's no need to shy away from it any longer. And this is the political dimension to the issue, as you were mentioning.
Are you talking about, generals, are you talking about the state police here?
Whatever you call it, even if they are vigilantes or whatever, some of them have been proved to be very, very responsive and active on the field. And I think what they need more is empowerment and coordination of the activity to complement that of the military on the ground. And the military have found them very useful. If I look back to the experience we had in Maiduguri, when the civilian JTF was formed, and we cannot discard or underrate the input they make to success of many operations. And it amounts to playing the ostrich when you want to ignore their input and give the impression that all this civilian input does not mean much. All I say is to regulate their input and put it under control. I think the military is disposed to that, but not objecting to it.
All right.
So if, for instance, in this southwest, for instance, let me make that, where the Amotekun have been proved to be effective in certain area, it's not out of place to empower them to be embedded in certain situations and also improve their state of weaponry.
All right. Now that you are tending towards that advice, so many things to really talk about, General, towards the advice of General T.Y. Danjuma, and he has always been on that advice for a long time. That's always been his position because he believes so many things are happening. Now, if this is the case, and you have said it should be moderated, it should be coordinated by the military, not just a free-for-all thing, General Lukolade, what happens to the huge defense, budget that's always churned out every year? This year's 2025 budget, defense stands tall in the percentage of money being voted for different sectors of the economy. Does that mean it's not being well utilized? Number two, does that mean that the military are saying, we will do what we can do, the rest of you should take care of yourself because we can no longer protect you adequately, calling a spade a spade?
I don't think we've gotten that far. I've always been interested in this economic aspects to defense management. It's easy to imagine that the money is much, but when you see the impact it can make in the field or what is utilized for, you know that it's not excessive. I give an instance. By the time you move an aircraft from one location to the other, just on patrol, I've repeated this in many, many instances. If you move, maybe let's say an Alpha jet from one spot to the other, no matter how short, in those days, by my calculation, if you take almost $1 million, no matter how short, and I'm talking of fuel alone, even if the distance is just 2 kilometers, both from takeoff and landing. And you imagine how many patrols take place in one day. That's for the Air Force. Now, if we deploy troops and they are rolling their tanks on the field, both for the warming that the armored car or whatever, both from warming it and moving it forward, you cannot talk of anything less than about 50,000. I'm talking of about 5 years ago. Now, you imagine how many of it takes place in one day. The troops that are on ground, you feed them. By the time you relate this to the value of what is coming out, it looks very huge. But if we imagine what it's meant to achieve, you will see talk of inadequacy. Although it looks very big. So quite often it's not that this money is wasted, it's not that it is not well utilized. It's just that naturally everywhere there is war, all is costly, and we are literally there.
All right, General. Let's talk about military. Okay, let's talk about military intelligence now. The role of intelligence cannot be overemphasized when it comes to fighting insecurity and insurgency. We have the Department of Military Intelligence, we have the DSS, we have other intelligence agencies, but it's quite unfortunate we are in a situation like this in Nigeria. It is quite clear. I know you may not want to, speak against your organization, but I would like you to be as objective as you can. Because to a layman on the streets in Nigeria, it is quite clear that intelligence, military intelligence, is failing. General, there is no better way, there is no nicer way to put it. Military intelligence in Nigeria is failing. General, how else can you describe a situation where an attack takes place in a particular state, then in less than 2 weeks, scores of people are killed, in less than 2 weeks, another attack takes place in the same state, and this has been happening over and over again, and we have multiple attacks taking place in different states. So it is quite clear that military intelligence is failing. My question is, what is the problem? If we look at other countries, for instance, we once had a guest on this show, we talked about security, and I made mention of the FBI. I mean, how these people, how they work with intelligence, how they foil attempts of attacks on their territory. What is happening here? What is our problem? What exactly is the challenge we are having with military intelligence in Nigeria? Because it is quite clear, no matter how you put it, military intelligence is failing in Nigeria.
Well, thank you very much for that conclusion. I can assure you that as much as possible, I'm objective, and that's to the best of my knowledge. Everywhere, the assumption has always been that the military intelligence fail, not just in Nigeria. If there could be 9/11 action, a feeling immediately would be that it's intelligence failure. And what this means is that, what do you call intelligence? Intelligence is the cumulative analysis of available information. When you have a lot of information, now analyze it to apply it to operation. And in other words, intelligence takes off from the level of information. And information cannot all be available to just one outfit. And that's why as much information as possible is needed to arrive at useful and active intelligence. Like I said, that is not to excuse what you are calling failure. And if you insist on calling it failure, the failure will not be that of the intelligence alone. It will be the input into the intelligence packaging. which may not be forthcoming from everywhere. And so all of us may take responsibility for that. But that is not to say that it could not be that, yeah, there are attitudinal or some inadequacies here and there. In fact, there are some what you can call negligence or incompetence. But I believe it is not as overwhelming as is being put by your analysis. The intelligence angle to it has always been an issue in any way there is an operation, not just in Nigeria. But that's not to say that the people involved are not doing their best.
Sorry to cut in. Sorry to cut in, General. You talked about 9/11 attacks. Of course, we have lapses in other countries. Apart from 9/11, look at Israel. Look at what happened to them in October 7. So there might be lapses. Quite all right. Those are one-off situations. Okay. But in Nigeria, we are having these issues repeatedly. It's not happening once, not twice, not 3 times. It keeps happening over and over again. That's why I said it's a failure of military intelligence, because it's something that happens over and over again. So in your opinion, what is the way forward? What is the way forward? How many times, how long should we keep, be having these kind of situations? What is the function of military intelligence? Okay, if attacks are being carried out over and over again in Nigeria, so what is the function of military intelligence? And in your opinion, what can be done to improve military intelligence in Nigeria? Because again, it is easier to prevent these attacks rather than coming out every time to say, oh, the perpetrators will be brought to book after lives have been lost. And after saying all that, the whole thing repeats again and again. So my question is, what can be done to improve on military intelligence in Nigeria?
Well, I understand your concern, but nevertheless, the summary of my position initially is that everybody else can have input into what becomes intelligence. And intelligence is not all by the military. The police also have an intelligence arm. So every security agency has an intelligence arm that makes input into the success of the operation. And what you are saying in terms of being too recurrent is relative to the volume of operation going on. It's relative. And those places we are pointing out as if they are super. To compare the situation around them to what is here. I stand by the fact that I think everything is improving, and all we need to make it better is to make more input of technology. And I think the agencies concerned are equally concerned, equally, working in this direction. That is of more technological input to having better intelligence to manage their operations. That's one angle we can put into it. The angle of, cooperation from the public to give input in terms of information will not get away no matter the volume of technology we have. So everybody will still need to keep making input in terms of information to make our intelligence more reliable.
Okay, all right, General. Sorry, just before we go on a break right now, we're due for a break, but just before then, you mentioned something, talking about the occurrence, talking about the rates. You would agree with me, General, that the rate of security challenges faced in bigger countries, say the US, for instance, the number of attacks their intelligence agencies foil every day, that they prevent every day, compared to Nigeria. General, you agree with me that what we are dealing with here is quite child's play. If you talk about the high-tech, attacks that these people are combating every day, what we are facing in Nigeria is child's play. General, we are talking about a ragtag army here. We are talking about a ragtag army in Nigeria, disturbing the peace. So you can't really say that if you compare what you are facing to other countries, you would agree with me that other countries are actually facing bigger security challenges, more well-organized, terrorist groups are being tackled in other climes.
Well, it's easier said as you have been saying it. And I don't think your use of ragtag to describe our army is...
No, not army. I said the terrorist groups. I said the ragtag army. I'm talking about the terrorist groups now, General. Please don't get me wrong. I'm talking about the terrorist groups, those terrorizing the bandits, terrorizing the people.
Everywhere, terrorists are ragtag. Everywhere, even overseas, they are ragtag. They are uncoordinated. And that's why managing them is not as easy as you want to present. They are not trained. And meanwhile, the trained organizations are under a lot of limitations of the law. And you will remember, even at the point in Nigeria, the concern was abuse of human rights. relative to handling the terrorists. So some of this analysis can be, inappropriate. Now back to saying the volume the foreign agencies foil is better. Let me tell you, maybe the issue is that either on the part of the agencies, and they don't have to say this anyway, there is a lot they foil that is not known to the public. It's when it happens that we begin to question their input. But indeed, if you are privileged to be an insider, know that a lot are being foiled. Yes, occasionally many get out of hand. And I'm saying that that's not peculiar here alone. That also is not to say that we should not improve the situation here. We should improve it, and we can improve it with technology. Are you going to relate the level of input of technology here to what's happening in America, for instance? If you think of the amount that is put into, mobilizing technology to support military operations there, are you going to compare it here? So every nation, response is relative to your capacity as a nation. And it's good we understand that.
All right.
Whether or not terrorists are ragtag or whatever, they are the same everywhere.
All right. General, a lot more questions need to be asked, and it's good that we have you here because, of course, you are an insider. Even when you are retired, definitely the issue of security in Nigeria will almost be a top concern for you, as it is for many of our viewers right now. Please hang in there. We'll come back. It's about securing this nation. We're on this quick break. We'll make a return. Stay with us.
Such ideology and belief, mostly of expansionist interests, both expansionist and dominating interests, and domineering interests. Right?
I asked about the military part of it, the security part of it, that is looking more like Nigeria is a breeding ground for these individuals, because if they know that if they go out, they won't come back, if they know that when they are planning it, they can just be apprehended and neutralized, possibly they won't be doing this. Is it because they know that we are that porous, we are weak? That's why they keep coming out. That's the second hang to that question.
Yeah, I still stand by the fact that there is a feeling of internal collaboration. I dare say, and with some care anyway, that interests that encourage their invasion are major aspects to consider. I'm particularly worried, for instance, about the invasion of forests. They didn't drop from the sky. There are certain interest groups that encourage them and infiltrated every forest in this country with them. And you will note also that there have been changes in political realm that can encourage this kind of invasion. All of this you cannot attribute mainly to security agencies. At the risk of looking, even bringing the issue lower, you remember there was a time some people declared a visa-free country for all Africans. Do you imagine what level of influx that would have led to, and whatever promoted that idea? And people didn't speak, and they didn't get worried. This is now when they are everywhere. And
all right, General. All right, General. I believe you can still hear us clearly.
Collaborated.
Okay. General, are you with us? Can you hear us clearly?
You're no more hearing me?
Okay, yes. There was a break, quite a slight break right there.
I hear you clearly, but are you not?
I can hear you now. We can hear you clearly right now. Okay, moving on, General. You made it clear earlier on that it is not the sole responsibility of the military. My question to you is this. What role, how can the civilian population, how can the civilian populace, what role can they play in national security? what role can civilians play in national security? And what's the role of community intelligence? What should be the scope of community intelligence in combating insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, thank you for that. And this has always been a repeated, suggestion here and there and demands. And I think, again, I will be optimistic not to say it's improving. Everybody is going to consider their role in making input rather than standing aloof as it used to be. It could be in terms of information and idea, and that maybe some understanding. The understanding can be promoted by the media in having, better access to explain what is going on, so that the public can know either what to suggest or how to appreciate the efforts that are on ground. And naturally, anyone who is in distress would feel abandoned and may not feel well cared for. So they need a lot of understanding, and this can be promoted by the media.
Okay, in terms of intelligence now, in terms of intelligence specifically, what role do you think the civilians can play when it comes to intelligence? What role exactly, in your own opinion, as an expert, what do you think an ordinary citizen can do just to help, just to support? Because again, like you said, the security challenges of this country goes beyond what the military can handle alone. So in your own opinion, about security, I, for one, am passionate about security. But what can we do to support the military?
But thank you very much. Maybe I wasn't very clear enough initially. The major input, I explained that intelligence that we talk so much about begins from the level of information. I think every information is vital. Even if people feel, frustrated at the use of the level of use of the information, no information is too small, particularly when it is related to securing our own immediate environment. When we see suspicious characters, every opportunity should be used to expose them to the agencies that are nearby, and in the best form and persistently. And people should not give up in indicating that, any information around them about the safety of all should be passed to the appropriate authorities that are empowered to either investigate or nip the negative use of such information in board. I also believe that the input in form of little vigilante groups have been of very good help everywhere. Like I mentioned initially, this is not what we can discard. It's been very helpful. I sympathize with them that many times they are not as armed as expected, and that's why I'm suggesting that something should be done in this direction to further empower them, but regulate their input.
According to maybe expert like yourself or experienced personality like yourself, they have always said no security challenge is always the same. There are different dimensions to these issues. Now, two questions for me. Number one, the issue in Benue and Plateau, as somebody who has information, who has churned out information in the past, what do you think is really happening there on the Plateau and in Benue? Some have said it's land grabbing. Some have talked about expansionist agenda. Some have said it's farmers' headers crisis. By the community has said that is none of it. It's not farmers headers crisis. What do you think is happening on the Plateau and in Benue? What dimension is it?
Well, I agree with at least two of what you have just mentioned. There is a clear indication of some unnecessary invasion of people who have used various ideological positions to explain it, although the explanations are deceptive. What do I mean by deceptive? The interest of certain groups, particularly on the land in that area. That area, apart from being vast, is fertile. And it has been the desire of a lot of invaders. You know, my earlier this I mentioned the economic dimension to the insecurity, you know, being the influx of non-Nigerians. But even with Nigerians who believe that they must take over the land of other people. I've done a very extensive tour of that of Benue initially, and I confirm the allegation that the essence of this insecurity there, as promoted by so-called terrorists from abroad or from outside or wherever, is meant to grab the land of the indigenes. Unfortunately, it appears there has not been sufficient political understanding or action to stop this trend. A situation where there's a lot of IDPs, while the place is called IDP, the homes of the people are being occupied by non-people after 1 or 2 years, and they begin to feel that belongs to them, with a view to ensuring that after many years, it cannot be taken away from them. All these are very organized attempts to grab land. So I agree with that position. And I also agree with calling it invasion. Their supporters have always used terminology such as let's forget about indigenes or non-indigene. That's not the issue. You know, pretending that nobody owns a land. Every land belongs to somebody. And so if a foreigner comes from nowhere and wants to push out the nation, the natural inhabitants of that area and take it over, what do you call it? Is it not land grabbing? So I agree with that. And the only important thing is the response. It takes the conviction on the heart of anybody. Yes, there's freedom of movement all over Nigeria, but shouldn't be exploited to displace people from their own land and their natural place. That's what's happening in Benue. And it's because the fertility of that area in terms of agriculture and perhaps the mineral resources. So all of this has economic dimension. It will take a great will, particularly from federal posture to address it. I don't know if that answers you.
All right, General. Let's talk about civil-military relations now. You've talked about the role of civilians and intelligence. So let's bring it down to civil-military relations and the public perception of the military by the public, by Nigerians. Now, General, for civilians to be able to give information to the military, I mean, there should be trust between them. There should be trust. There should be mutual trust. Do you think that the Nigerian public have that trust in the military to share information? Okay, let's look at the front the military is putting up. What is the relationship between the military and the general public in Nigeria? What perception do you think exists? What was the perception? Is there trust? Is there mutual trust? We've seen cases where civilians, we've had human rights abuses, several of them here in Nigeria, where civilians have been manhandled by military officers. So do you really think that the people are comfortable sharing, community intelligence with the military in Nigeria? And what do you think can be done to improve that? Because again, we live in a part of the world, we live in a country where if a civilian mistakenly, puts on anything that looks like a military camouflage, it could just be, a sign, a sticker, a cap, whatever. You see how the military treat them. Yeah, General, you're smiling. You see how the military treats them in Nigeria. What is the public perception? Do you really think the people have that trust in the military? Talking about civil-military relations generally in Nigeria, what's your opinion and what's the way forward?
Well, we're not taking on the issue of terminology. I think the issue is about relationship generally. And if you have studied situation over the ages, both due to the efforts within the military and with increasing understanding of the peculiarity of military operations, I think it is improving. And I can make instances to indicate this. The trust definitely is increasing. When you see the reaction of Nigerians, especially when there is an unfortunate incident involving the military, you see the concerns, the love that Nigerians show towards the military. It does not indicate this degree of hatred that some people imagine. I think the Nigerian civilians love the military. they love their military. It's actually a national asset. And by the volume of interest to join the military is another indication of how civilians want to, relate with the military. They are not as terrible as we used to imagine. And there's the trauma that makes some react the way we are saying. And they are becoming exceptional cases. I said I have instances that can prove that the whole thing is improving. When the matter in the Northeast started, one major concern was to get the civilians to understand that terrorists are terrorists and should not be allowed to dominate any space in Nigeria. But not many people around there agreed initially. They always feel that these ones are our own, the military are invaders. But along the line, when understanding continued to improve, the concern of the citizens got to the level where not only were they willing to help the military, they were ready to form this, what we call civilian joint task force, and that were ready to move with the military. At a point, these were people who would be hailing the terrorists against the military. But along the line, the whole matter changed. That's why I say some internal efforts within the military to reach out, to explain itself, to get the public to understand it. Incrementally, I think there is some improvement. Yes, it could be better, and exceptional. There are exceptions of, overreach on the part of both. In a situation where somebody chooses to deliberately want to draw out the military, and within 2 minutes you are telling, is it because you are in uniform? What do you think you are? All those kind of, the mutual respect dimension would be encouraging to both parties. But if you compare the love for the military to many other, I don't want to say organizations, you will know that Nigerians appreciate their military.
All right, General. All right, General. You don't want to mention organizations, but I can actually predict that. But again, General, talking about civil-military relations, I strongly believe, and I believe that's also the opinion of a lot of Nigerians, that it can be improved. Civil-military relations can be improved in Nigeria. Like you said, it has gotten better. But sincerely, General, what do you think we can do to improve it further? Well, to be sincere with you, General, Nigerians, like you said, Nigerians love their military. Yes, Nigerians respect military men. When you travel by road, as soon as you're approaching, a checkpoint, a military checkpoint, you see fellow passengers telling you, hey, drop that phone call. You don't have to make phone. I mean, is it better to be feared or to be loved? I ask again, is it better to be feared or to be loved by the people?
Well, it's better to be loved and respected by the people. And I think the agencies themselves, they realize this. If you look at the series of efforts, before, were you conscious of outfits such as the civil military relations, human rights desk, and all those things that now exist in them to promote this expectation? They are increasing. That shows that there's some internal action to improve on the relationship between the military and the public. And if you see the deployment of military facilities to help communities where they are located, which otherwise you may call corporate social responsibility, you see that it's increasing. The military is devoting some of its resources or budget to promoting projects in communities they are located. I'm aware of many communities where not just bridges, structures, and others, all of these are towards the improvement. I think that it should continue to be promoted and encouraged.
All right.
And generally speaking, the situation is improving.
Is improving, right? We'll still look more into the civilian-military relationship, especially in the fight against the insecurity, because it's all of us. To start with, we are Nigerians. Either you are civilians or you are military, we are Nigerians, and we all have a nation to protect. We'll look into that more, in the full throttle. But I want to ask you, as far as numbers is concerned, because we heard today as far as much as the Nigerian military, the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, keep on saying they are neutralizing these criminals, these bandits, whatever name they are called. Sometimes we record casualty on the Nigerian side as well. The Nigerian military is 2 today, 3 tomorrow. Army checkpoints or army bases being overrun as well, which is quite, it will take some, some audacity for some persons to say they are going to overrun, and they've overrun many bases as well. Do you think we still have the numbers? What if you have, I know you have left the service for quite some time, but can you give us possibly an aggregate of the number, of an idea, of the number of troops that we have right now as far as the Nigerian defense is concerned, if actually you can? And do you think you have the right number to still pursue this war on different fronts?
Maybe generally speaking, much as even if I'm in service, it's not appropriate for me to be specific on the number of troops on ground. It has intelligence implication generally, and but all we can do is generalize. And when I generalize in this instance, I will tell you straight away that we definitely need more. When we say boots on ground, it means soldiers in terms of numbers. We definitely still need a number of them to operate and cope with the challenges we are facing. However, can the economy sustain it? Those are the issues. And all of these things will be related, and put side by side with the resources of the nation. We definitely need more soldiers anywhere in managing the situation. And so the recruitment has been, gradual, but definitely by observation, it's still not adequate in terms of number. No. In terms of number, and then it takes more than a day to make a soldier. It takes a period to make a good soldier. So both the initial training and continuous training while in service equally has cost dimension.
All right.
All of these are issues that has to be considered.
All right. We'll take this quick break. General, please stay with us. By the time we return, it will be the home stretch, and we will talk more about the civilian and the military relationship, especially in containing and even pursuing these wars, so that victory is really asserted. Stay with us.